Hey guys, my name is Danish and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the Eifel Grand Prix in Germany. Finally, we have another Germany race and I was hoping for it to be as good as the previous year, and 2019 Germany was mwah. But yeah, let's see what happens in this race. It was a weird weekend with a lot of rain and people did not have any idea of what to do. They did not have any previous data on the track, so it was really important for the 3 practice sessions to go through. But alas, that didn't happen as Friday got rained out, so there was no running in FP1 or FP2. So Saturday was a really hectic day with the FP3 session because everybody went out and they had to do long run simulations, qualifying simulations, understanding the tires, and it was a lot to do. And then in a few hours qualifying was going to begin. So it was pretty hectic weekend and it was morely up on the drivers right now, so they had to adapt and put out their best performance ever. So coming on to qualifying, it was a kind of a normal affair. Like in Q1 the Williams got out, in Q2 Vettel got out sadly, and in Q3 Valtteri came on top, Lewis came second and Max came third. So the top three just keep repeating themselves with just a bit of a different order, but Max was pretty close to the Mercedes this weekend, and Valtteri had a stunning Q3 where he put nearly half a second on the time charts between him and Lewis. So it was really nice and there was not much drama in the qualifying. So I'll have the qualifying order right here or this side, whichever side. So let's get on with the race. On race day on Sunday, we had a few more issues because the track temperature and the ambient temperature was really low. So the ambient temperature was around 9 degrees Celsius and the track temperature was around 16-17 degrees, and it was really hard to switch on the tires. By this I mean the tires really need to be in an operating window where at a certain temperature, it's only after that will they start providing grip. So if they are cold, it's basically like skating. So the warm-up lap was really important for the top contenders, and the start was pretty funny because everyone raced to turn 1. Lewis got ahead of Val. Everybody missed the first corner, everybody ran wide, so it was everybody running wide. But Valtteri fought back. Of the few moments that this year that Valtteri really stood out like a title contender, and he put his elbows out for Lewis and he regained the lead at turn 3. So there was no accidents in turn 1 like we have seen in the previous few years. So the first few laps was just normal people getting into the groove, lighting up their tires, and here we start seeing the depressing state of Ferrari because they did not have the race pace compared to the top 3, and by lap 6 Leclerc was already 11 seconds behind the leaders, and he was the bottleneck for the rest of the pack who were all running 1.5 to 2 seconds in between each other and fighting for positions. But Leclerc made a huge gap between the leaders, and this was going to be annoying for Ricciardo because he really wanted to get ahead of Leclerc as soon as possible and start hunting the top 3. But then when around lap 8 we got radio messages that there would be a light shower and somewhat on some parts of the track, but that really got me energized and was like, rain, yes, bring it on. But then it did not happen, sad face. So then the other exciting moment that we got was on lap 8 where Albon outbraked himself and flat spotted the front left at turn 1, and that really ruined his strategy because with a flat spot you can't really drive fast because of all the vibrations that the car has. So he really had to pit soon, and normally this is a 1 stop or 2 stop, but that is at 15 laps or 20 laps. Some even push it to 25 if it was possible, but this was lap 8, so not even half the distance into the first stint. And finally on lap 9 Ricciardo overtook Leclerc where he switched back on turn 1 and took the inside line and all the way to turn 3 and he overtook Leclerc, and that was a good moment for Ricciardo because that really set him up for the podium in the end. And in the middle of all of this we had a few good fights, like Perez and Norris were fighting for P6 right behind Leclerc, so it was quite fun to see them catching up and fighting, but the gap was around 1 second even after a few laps, and that fight was slowly stalling out. And after this, people started pitting, like Leclerc pit, and on lap 11, Vettel had a flat spot issue again on turn 1 where he spun out, flat spotted his tires as well, and he pit a lap later for the hards. And then as this was all started going around, we got a few radio messages that Valtteri was having issues. And as Crofty was talking about Lewis just taking 4 tenths out of Valtteri's lead, and they cut to a camera where Lewis just overtook him after turn 2. And then we found out that Valtteri had lost his MGUK and had a flat spot on his front left as well at turn 1. So he really had bad luck in this race and he had to retire this weekend. And this is where all the reliability issues start creeping in for a lot of the people in this race. And this was one of the first reliability issues that we saw with Mercedes this year. This was a saving race for Lewis and Max because they really did not have to overtake another car, and Lewis got the podium that he wanted this weekend, and he wanted it to be a special weekend as well. And this put the final podium position into Danny Rick's lap, and Cyril Abitbull must have been sweating in the paddock then because he has to get a tattoo if Ricardo gets a podium. That was a bet the two of them had, so I'm really interested to see what comes up of the tattoo, and I'll share it on my Instagram as soon as it comes. So follow me on Insta right here and here, or follow me on Twitter, and let's have a conversation there. But I digress. Let's get back to the race. And then on lap 14, we cut to a camera position where Russell is limping back to his pit box, and in the replay we saw Kimi coming down, locking his tires, and he got an oversteer movement where he had to correct it, and that he steered him right into Russell, and Russell got airborne, and this brought the virtual safety car. And this was a saving race for the top contenders because they pitted on this lap, and as soon as they left the pit, the VSC was ending, so they got a cheap pit stop out of it, and so this stalled out the top two's race, and it was just getting monotonous again. But again, in a few more laps, we got the Albon incident with Kvyat, where Albon wanted to overtake Kvyat, and Kvyat locked up and went over the grass, and Albon really got next to him, and when he came forward, he wanted to come to the racing line to take the final corner, and he just clipped him and took out his front wing, and that was Albon's fault. And in the midst of all of this, Valtteri lost power and he had to retire the car, and Kimi got a penalty for his accident with Russell, and so did Albon. So Kimi got 10 seconds and Albon got 5 seconds. Ocon really had not an interesting race. He was running in the middle of the pack, but he retired all of a sudden. We found out from Renault that it was an hydraulic issue. On lap 24, Albon also went to the pits, and we thought this was just a normal pit stop because he stopped. But then he switched off the engine, and then we got to know that they retired the car because of power unit issues. And it was a normal race again all the way up till lap 26, where we start receiving radio messages from Norris that he was losing power. So he lost the battery deployment, and Norris was struggling with his power unit all the way for till lap 30 as well, and the engineer was talking to him to go to strat mode 3 and try out other things, but nothing really was helping him, and finally he parked the car up at turn 6, and before he stops, Perez and both Sainz overtake Norris, and Perez gets free. So an interesting thing of this race is Lewis lapped Norris, who was in P6 at the time. So you can see the might of Lewis and Max, who were pushing all the way through the race, and they overtook 3/4 of the field. And if there was no safety car in the middle, they would have even overtaken Ricciardo as well, because Ricciardo was around a minute behind the leaders. So you can see the power of the Mercedes and the Red Bull compared to the rest of the track. Honda. So this was another big news of this weekend, where Honda is pulling out of the F1 race, and this puts Red Bull in a bit of a pickle because they have to choose from the other three engine suppliers, that is Mercedes, Ferrari and Renault. And Nico Hülkenberg was having a good race where he's at P20, but all the way was at P9 in around lap 40. And yeah, this was a great performance showing from Nico Hülkenberg. At the last moment, he was pulled to substitute for Stroll. Nico showed his strengths, and please guys, just give him a seat for next year. Red Bull, you're listening, right? Push somebody out and put Nico there. And coming to the second highlight of this race was when Norris stopped his car on lap 44 at turn 6, and this brought out the safety car. Finally, we missed the safety car in Sochi, but we got it again. So yeah, this spiced up the race because a lot of the pack was really spaced out compared to the leaders, and the top four pitted as usual. So and they came out in the front, but because of the safety car, they had to go slowly, and this was a really big problem because the tire temperatures were not going up high enough for them to survive, and this was really angering Lewis as usual. He always screamed at the safety car for it to go a bit faster, but this time Max was also putting his opinion about the same thing, and he also said that the safety car is going slow, and this was a kind of an unfair advantage because the driver in P4, which was Leclerc, was a lapped car, and he was right between Lewis and Max when the safety car picked them all up. So when all the lapped cars were left to go and unlap themselves, they got to run at a higher speed, and they got temperature in the tires where the top three were still going slowly, weaving about trying to get temperature, but they couldn't. And the safety car lasted for 4 laps, and it ended at lap 49, and you could really see Lewis and Max struggling at the restart because their tires were slipping about, but they did not get anybody that overtook them, and everybody held its station, and within half a lap everybody had their tires switched on, and it was pedal to the metal because running behind the safety car, the VSC, so nobody was doing any type of fuel management or tire management, so everybody could go flat out for the last 10 laps, which was quite interesting and entertaining, and everybody ended the race in the same position they were at lap 49, where Lewis was P1, Max Verstappen P2, and Daniel Ricciardo was P3. Finally a podium for Daniel. He got his last podium in 2018, I believe, and I can put the finishing order on both sides, 10 here and 10 here, and we really wanted to see the Shui on the podium, but alas we didn't get it, but we got it on Instagram a few hours later where he did it in his room. But during the post-race interview where he was interviewed and asked about the Shui, Daniel's eyes lit up and he totally forgot about it. This is a cute moment, but yeah. And the other outstanding moment of this race weekend was Lewis matching Michael Schumacher for 91 total victories. The touching moment was Mick Schumacher giving Michael's race worn helmet from 2012, which was a really emotional moment because he is giving the mantle that his father held for so long, and he was the one to give Lewis the helmet. So this was a really emotional moment for me, and I know for all of you F1 hardcore fans, but yeah, that was my heart, my soul. So that's it for this weekend, and Lewis got another big lead in Valtteri's championship bid, and Lewis had a 69 points lead with Valtteri. 69. Nice. And Max got the fastest lap point at the end of the final lap. So yeah, it was a good race weekend for the top teams, and Mercedes is running away with the constructors with 300 odd points. So yeah, it was a fun race weekend. It was not a boring race. We had a few boring laps in the middle, but that you can just accept it because there were so many highlightable moments in the race, and it was a fun weekend. So let's carry up this momentum forward to the Portugal Grand Prix as well, which is coming a weekend after this. We have a gap in the middle. So that's it for me today. Hope you had a lovely weekend. Hope you enjoyed the week coming forward. If I missed anything of this race, put it down in the comments and let's have a conversation. If you're a fanboy for some racing driver, let's talk about that as well. You can ask me questions on Twitter and Instagram, which I've linked in the description as well. Stay home, stay safe. Peace.